All right, Rob Browne here with you on this Wednesday afternoon. Kind of working through some weather delays. We've got Doug Dean in Birmingham and special guest Coach Tom Crean, who's been doing it back at Marquette, went to the Final Four in 03, Indiana, Georgia, now on ESPN as one of the better basketball analysts. And Coach, first off, thank you more than you know for taking time to share with us, because you've got a lot of experience. You got a great story, and I think every Auburn, this is an Auburn podcast, diehard, wow, bomb. My first reaction now, remember the old TV commercial, Ella Fitzgerald breaking the glass? Is it live or is it Memorex? My son,
giving your age away.
That's right. Blowing my phone up the other day. Bruce Pearl retiring. My first reaction now was, is it AI? But I was at Auburn when Sonny Smith was there. I didn't miss a game. When I started in college and I did a show at college, he and Coach Dye and Pat Sullivan were my first guests. If I hadn't had their commitment, I wouldn't have gotten it off the ground. You've been doing this a while again, and Bruce Pearl, he's gone. Stephen, his son, has taken over. Man, Auburn fans always said when they get as mad about a basketball loss as they do a football loss, that's when the program is going to be special. And I think Auburn's there, but first off, again, thanks for joining us, and let's talk about his career and your as well.
Well, I think Bruce has had a phenomenal career, and I've known him really since, I think the first time I met him was in Detroit at Wayne State University. He was new to Iowa. I was in love with coaching. I don't know if I was at Alma College yet. I might not have been there yet when I first met him at Wayne State in a gym watching old AAU games, and recruiting rules were different, and that you could be out at all the time. And I think I met him in June, and I'll never forget. He had one of those black, I don't want to call it silky. It looks silky, but it was one of those black, really cool sweatsuits that said Iowa. And I think the Iowa basketball was in yellow. Yeah. And he was really, really young. I didn't realize at the time how young he was, but he befriended me at a young age. And when some people did and some people didn't. And I was just really starting out, and I tried to be in the environments where everybody was going to be watching players. So I would get in a car and drive 2.5 hours to Detroit. And that's where I met and got to know so many people like Tom Izzo and people like that. But Bruce Pearl always treated me well. And we're actually in the league at the same time when he was at Iowa and I was a graduate assistant at Michigan State. And we just known each other forever. And then it came full circle when we were both in Marquette. When I first went to Marquette, Bo Ryan had taken over. And then 2 years later, Bo Ryan goes to Wisconsin to replace Brad Soderberg, and in comes Bruce Pearl. So we were together, I believe that was 5 years before he went to Tennessee. But what's interesting when all this happened is I did have a chance to call his last win, which was in Atlanta in the Elite Eight when they beat Michigan State. And I was on the call for with Spiro Ditas. I was on the call for Westwood One Radio, and we interviewed him right after the game. And the last thing I did on the court before I left is I went and shook Stephen's hand. And I have a son in coaching. Obviously, I've known Stephen for a long, long time. Yeah. And I look at it differently. When Bruce and I have competed, there's no doubt about that. Competed when we were in the city of Milwaukee. We competed when I was at Indiana. He's at Tennessee, and even certainly, obviously, in the SEC. But as a father, you always look at that differently. And the way I remember when they first went to the Final Four a couple of years ago. I don't remember exactly who they beat, but it was their first Final Four. And Stephen is crying on that bench. Heck, I had tears in my eyes watching that. And there's been a few times like that. I remember sitting watching an NBA playoff game, and there is Bruce and Stephen sitting courtside at a Milwaukee Bucks game with the Gruber family, which are family friends of them there. And it's like, that's so cool. Yeah. And that's one thing I've always, I like a lot of things about Bruce, but what he's done, including his family and including his kids, and certainly what he's done with Stephen, is something that I've always had great respect for.
Yeah, I totally agree. We've all been watching this, and it's surreal, but he says he's going to stay in Auburn. But, the appreciation, you as a coach, what it takes. It's your life. So that's a neat litany of his life. Doug, jump in here on the diehard.
Well, first of all, Coach Crean, it's just a great honor for us to have you on this show, because there are more listeners in live right now, and then people download them later. That's the way the new technology, digital world works. But I, for one, and I know I'm in a large swath of people that really liked your work as a coach at iconic programs like Marquette. Wasn't there a 2003 Final Four during that time? Golly. And of course, legendary Indiana and Georgia. I'm going to give you a chance, and thank you for being such a class act. And we're sort of on, we won't spend the whole show on it. There's a lot to talk about in the world of SEC and national college basketball as it approaches. But I'm going to give you a chance to rebut a statement Bruce made among his farewells that I found humble to the point of ridiculous. Bruce said, I've gotten tired now. We all get tired at some point, don't we? Fatigue makes cowards of us all. And he said, my style, I was never very smart, coach. So I had to really overcome that with a lot of high energy. And of course, no surprise, Bruce's a consummate extrovert. And I'm sure he did get energy out of his players in his share of big games. But would you care to rebut that Bruce Pearl is not smart?
Yeah, he got into Boston College. That's a high academic school. I mean, he had to do something right academically. Yeah. No, Bruce is he's smart. He's shrewd. He knows how to play to the crowd. There's no doubt about that. Bruce knows he's smart, and I think everybody that's around Bruce knows that he's smart. But what he is he's relentless in his approach. Yeah. I've said this many times with great admiration. He's as good of being a modern college basketball coach as there has been. Okay. And I mean, there's no question about it. He understood the business. He understood the coaching. Certainly he's a phenomenal coach. He understood recruiting. He understood relationships. He understood that how much goes into the relationships. But he understood that, and I tried to do the same thing. I mean, whether it was, when I got to Marquette, we were averaging 6,700 fans. And when I left, we were almost at 16,500. Even the first 2 years at Georgia, we set records. Right. And at Indiana, we had to build it back up. But the point is this, and I think Bruce has done this is a big part, I think, of why he's so successful. He appeals to everybody in their own way, right? And so it wasn't like Bruce was just trying to recruit the masses to come in and be a part of his program. He was recruiting you individually, right? Because you could identify and you could connect with him. And I think I saw some of Stephen's press conference earlier today where he talked about, that it was nothing for his dad to pick up the phone, take a call, make a call to somebody that was going through something tough, or to go into the student cafeteria or whatever it was at UWM and stand up on a table. See, that's connecting with people individually. People make a mistake when they take that for granted. And no matter, and again, it's really easy to make a mistake right now because there's so much money in this where you feel like you've got to put all your time into the money. You got to put your time into the donors. You got to put your time into the corporations. And yes, you do. You do have to do that. But the corporations and the big donors, they're not creating a home court for you. The grassroots are, the students are, the young families are, the single couples that don't have kids yet are. That's what Bruce understood. That's what he did at Milwaukee. He built onto it at Tennessee. There's no doubt about that, because they had talent when he walked in, but he had to build that back up to be exciting. But what he did at Auburn is incredible. And it's absolutely incredible because he made basketball there, and you guys know better than me, but he made basketball a 365-day-a-year deal. And that's real, real, real hard when you're in a dominant football area and when you're in a dominant football school like Auburn is. And that didn't take anything away from Auburn football. They were 365 days a year too. But he made basketball at Auburn 365 days a year. And I think that's a really special thing.
Yeah. Coach, great take, and so flattering of Bruce. I know what's on everyone's mind. Some emotionally, if they bleed orange and blue. Others, I guess, curiosity. But take us inside, because it doesn't happen every year when a coach leaves or retires. But in a circumstance, and this one's unique, where a legacy coach like Stephen, he's been on staff. basketball is not new to him, any aspect of it. He's had tremendous mentoring. But anyone who's fair would say there's risk involved. There's risk involved if you go hire a big name coach after you spent not a small amount of money on buyouts and bringing assistants here. So but what if you were the outgoing retired head coach, and it so happened that your son had a pedigree, maybe not including head coaching, and we've just seen Duke and a couple other programs roll the dice, and it's going well so far. But what are some moves you would make to improve the odds that it's seamless and it has its best opportunity to win? In the end, the players are going to decide wins and losses, maybe slightly more than coaches. Most coaches will tell you that. But what do you see going on with this dynamic that would be good advice for everyone involved at Auburn, including Bruce Pearl? How would you go about it?
Well, there's a couple different ways. First off, this has been something, and you guys might have heard it. I've certainly heard it for a period of time, that once Tommy Tuberville, once there was the maybe that he would run for governor, that certainly that there was a chance that Bruce was going to go into the political world of Senate. And whether it happens, whether it doesn't, that's been out there for a while, right? And I was frankly surprised when Bruce did his last contract, and I don't think they got the heir apparent with Stephen, because I'd heard that was something that was potentially there. But I think Bruce handled this like a father of a coach, or like the father of a young coach, but like the leader of a program, should he wanted to leave the program in the hands of somebody that he knew would not let it fail, and vice versa, he's not going to let Stephen fail. And I say that, Bruce is huge part of it. And I think the only surprising thing to me personally would be the timing of it. But I never thought it was going to, when it was going to happen, it was going to happen. If it was going to happen, I should say, it was going to happen when Stephen had the best chance to succeed. Yeah. Now, you can't have a much better chance than to have a 5-year contract. I mean, and so I think that is the great thing right now, because the 5-year contract gives him a chance to recruit right off the bat. My hope is, if this was going to happen, that he wouldn't have walked into an interim role. If it was, because I heard about it much earlier in the year, and then in the summer it started to pick up even more a little bit. When you don't have a horse in the race, like I don't have a horse in the race, you hear a lot of different things that you don't hear when you're a coach, right? When you're coaching a team or in recruiting. So you hear a lot of different things. And I was just hopeful, as the parent of a young coach, because I have a son that coaches with the Dallas Mavericks, and every mother or father that is a coach should be rooting hard for this to work for Stephen, because it's not like Auburn wasn't winning, and it's not like they haven't consistently won. It's not like they haven't rebuilt and then had to reload numerous times, and Stephen was there through every part of it. So I think the 5-year contract gives people a chance to take a breath, let it happen. Anybody that's looking for them to match the success of last year, even if Bruce cloned himself 4 times, right, and said, okay, well, we're going to have the same kind of year. That's not how it works. They basically got one returner. All right. I mean, and that's hard to do now. And Pettiford is a very good player, but he's the only one returning. It was going to take Bruce time to get this team to mesh, because it's not a team that's full of NBA players. Now, there's some guys that I think can make the NBA, but outside of Pettiford, it's not a team that is like surefire, man, that's a no-brainer. And I do think there's really good players. I think Keyshawn Murphy is going to make it. I think Keyshawn Hall can become a pro. And I really think Flip Jovic, if he'll stay there a little bit and develop a jump shot, and we can talk about how I think they'll need to play, I think those guys are going to be good. But it's going to take a time. They lost some really experienced guards, not to mention Broome and Cardwell up front. So people have got to let Stephen build the team, know that everything is in place for it to be successful, but there's going to be growing pains. There's going to be a learning curve. And he's also just happens to be coming into a year after maybe the best conference in all of college basketball history, right? So that's going to take some time. But I think the best thing he's done is bringing Matt Gatens in this summer as GM. If there was going to be a move, that gives him a guy that knows the game. I think Mike is an outstanding basketball coach. Certainly Ira and Corey do a really good job at it. Watching practice last year in Atlanta and watching 2 days day before, in preparation for those games. Like, Bruce runs it. There's no doubt about that. But I was highly impressed with the way that coaching staff was on the floor. And now, whether Bruce was there or not, they're going to have to play a little differently this year. They're going to have to build into the things that Bruce did, I should say, with the flex and the way the offense got better. But they also have a chance to be even a little bit of a different team. So
use more speed, right?
I'm sorry?
Bruce talked about they've got more speed on this team, but
they've got speed. They're their older guys are a lot thinner. The JUCO kids, it's not the same body types, right? And I haven't seen them other than pictures right now, but those aren't the same body types. I mean, you're replacing some 23, 24-year-old men.
Yeah.
And it's going to take some time. But the one thing, adding Keyshawn Murphy was a huge get, because he's as good of a random multiple ball screener as there might be in college basketball. And he can score in the paint. He's quick. He's athletic. And Pettiford could be a phenomenal player in the ball screen. Like, I look at this team, and I'm jumping ahead here a little bit, but they should be, if they run more middle pick and roll with that team, and they play faster like we talked about, and they get out, and if Pettiford will throw it ahead on the break, and the young guys can get out, Emeka can get out and play and use his length, like, now they've got a chance. They're going to have real depth on this team. But I also think the speed, the middle pick and roll game, they're staying on the offensive glass. They're not just trying to power it up after an offensive rebound, but kick it back out to keep the game going. And then I think they're going to be able to put a lot of pressure on people defensively.
Yeah, Coach. I think Doug and I will agree, and everybody watching. When I was at Auburn, Sonny Smith was there, a lot of success. But Pat Dye was also there, and football was rolling.
Sure.
The last decade, especially the last 5 or 6 years, it's been rough watching Auburn play football. I don't even want to get into that. That's been tough. But the basketball, there's a generation of Auburn fans that have latched on to Bruce Pearl and everything he's all about. I have a son that just graduated three years ago. Football was big, but this is the first time I've ever seen this happen. Growing up in Memphis, I remember skating on ice to the ice storm in '74 to watch Memphis play at the Coliseum when, Bartow was there. I mean, you just didn't miss. I love basketball, and people like you, we got to get you on our morning show. Doug, wouldn't he be fun on the Friday roundtable?
Oh, God, yeah.
I hope you'll join us, because your passion of basketball. Where were you born and raised? Up in the Midwest?
I was born in Michigan. I was born in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. Clare, Michigan, actually, and grew up in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. Went to school at Central Michigan University, and then on to as a GA at Michigan State when Judd Heathcote was the coach and Tom Izzo was the assistant coach.
Wow.
But I think, and what you said, and I think, like I said this a little bit ago, like Georgia, even the 2 years we were there setting the attendance record, then COVID hit. Yeah. And then we lost Anthony Edwards, right? And we were, and then the percentage of fans dropped that COVID year. And then the portal and NIL hit all at the same time for us, and we were in trouble. Here's what was so cool about what Auburn did. The COVID year, we even went in at Georgia. We even went in and beat them at Auburn during COVID. But they didn't skip a beat when they came back the next year. And not only because they were really good, with Walker Kessler and Jabari Smith, but because those fans were so passionate. And I think, like, you had to have real sustainability after COVID if you weren't a basketball traditionalist. There were some programs that was really hard to get the fans back. And I'm not talking about when you're playing the big games. I'm talking about for the Wednesday night guarantee game, right? In November and December. Well, Auburn was still coming for those. And see, I think there's so many little signs of what Bruce and that whole group did to make Auburn such a happening. And when you grow up in an environment where football is this or another sport is that, and you still want to be a part of basketball every day that they're out there, that means that there is something really, really pulling you in there that's more than just, man, I like basketball, right? And I think that's where Bruce, look at how hard that ticket is to get it to get for a student. Look at the way they camp out, and they're not just doing it for Kentucky. That's what's so interesting. They're doing it or Alabama. They're doing it for games.
Yes,
and I just think that's, Stephen won't be Bruce. Okay, they're two different people, right? But he understands. To me, He's been around it all his life.
Yeah.
He understands what you have to do to keep people engaged. And I think Bruce being around is going to help that too. But I think that program's in really good shape. But again, I'll go back to this. He's got a 5-year deal. That's the biggest walk-in. Take a deep breath and say, let's go, right? Because you're not in a prove it time. Now, some people get, if that was a 5-year deal in football, as we see all over the country, and you have a bad first year, all of a sudden you get into your second year, and that's like being in year 4 or 5. Look at the guy at UCLA. I mean, look at some of these jobs. Football's different. But when you built it like they did, as the Pearl family built it, and the Auburn families jumped in behind that, they just got to give Stephen time to build his own personality with this, to figure out how he's going to deal with the referees, how he's going to deal with losing streaks, how he's going to deal with halftime adjustments, how he's going to deal with situational basketball, what he's going to do on road trips, all those different things. And he'll grow into that. He's had a good teacher.
Wouldn't Coach, I don't know if there's no reason that Georgia fans would have, when they were riding high and have been, and maybe they will this year in football, would say what Rob and I heard so many Auburn fans saying during this recent down period of Auburn football. And Auburn football won't stay down forever. The DNA is there. He freezes building. But the cliche was, we are a basketball school now. And to hear that in the deep South, Coach, just crazy. But, you zoom out to 10,000 feet looking down, and, it probably was not even 5 or 10 years ago that the whole nation and the Jay Billets of Billis of the world would say SEC they make some noise in basketball, but they're primarily a football. And last year, look how the insane number of SEC teams that got NCAA berths. It looks like that in terms of talent acquisition and NIL in basketball, it's only getting stronger. But I think, as you said, even if Bruce were staying and he had a nutrition regimen where he kept his energy at the level he said he wanted, and coaching another year, there would be a lot of things he would have to adapt and adjust because of the roster turnover. Yeah. I'll give you one to keep an eye on: Filip Jovic from Bosnia. I think that kid, he's basically already been playing professional ball over there. Sure. So there's going to be players that nobody's ever heard of that come through.
Well, sorry, Coach. What they do, this is what we're talking about offensively. The way Bruce runs his flex offense, and the way he gets his post-ups, and the way he gets his screens and his slips, and he isolates in the post. Flip should be really good at that. Like, he's not real big and strong yet. Again, I haven't seen him since he's been at Auburn, but he can score. He can spin. He can score over either shoulder. He can pin you. He can duck you in, right? And that's one of the big cornerstones of that offense. But at the same time, I think there were times last year. I mean, I said this to Bruce. I said this numerous times last year, even on TV. You take the last 10 minutes of Auburn at Houston after they had the issue on the plane, and they go in there and they play that game. The last 10 minutes of offense might have been as good a 10 minutes of offensive execution as there was the entire season. I mean, not the only great offense, but when you look at the last 10 minutes of that game, the way they went into Houston and executed offensively in that environment against that team and that coach, it was, I didn't see anything better of a 10-minute period all year. Like, there's so much there for them. Now, that was a different team, but that's going to be the thing. And I think if there's one thing, the biggest thing, Stevens' issues won't come early on defense. They'll come on making sure he gets that team to understand offensively what the right shot is. And it's one thing to say, hey, we're going to play loose, we're going to play with freedom, as long as you're playing hard defensively. When you take over, it doesn't matter. The quicker that he eliminates, and the 5-year contract eliminates this at the front end, but the quicker he eliminates, he's not the substitute teacher, the quicker that team's going to get better. Because I'm not saying he is at all, right? He's a new coach, but the players have got to grow into understanding, no, this is the coach now, and what he says matters, right? And obviously he's had a huge role on that team for a long time, but this is not the substitute teacher. This is our guy, and he's got to establish that this is how we win. And before you can establish how you win, you have to eliminate how you lose, right? And how you lose offensively is not only turnovers, but it's what I call shot turnovers. Bad shots, you're out of rebounding position, the ball gets rebounded long, people are gone the other way, and all of a sudden it puts tremendous pressure on your transition defense. So him getting the offense down, they'll be fine defensively, right? They got to get that offense to where they understand we can't lose by doing this, this, and this. And I think again, him as a young coach, it's any new coach that walks into a situation right now. You build your cornerstones and your culture defensively, but you have to get their attention offensively so that you don't shoot yourself out of games. And I think that's going to be big for them.
Yeah. Coach, I know Ronnie said you had 25 or 30 minutes. We ran late. I'll keep you, if you can stay another 5 or 6 minutes.
Yeah,
we've got Tim Cromartie, Anthony Cromartie's coming on after this. Ronnie had set that up. But Ronnie said to tell you hello. He apologizes. And I said, no problem. You asked about him, but we'll definitely need to do this again. And I'm with Doug. There's just a generation now of Auburn fans that might be a little like confused. Hey, it was a basketball school when I was there. And I can't ever remember that happening. But people would say you can't have great basketball in the South. And I always say, if you have a great commitment, you can.
Sure. And they do. Yeah, no question. And Bruce is revered. He's earned that.
Yes.
Right. This probably doesn't get done without being revered that way. I mean, they gave him a 5-year contract at the beginning of the season. So whether it got done Sunday, Monday, whatever day it got done, to get that 5-year contract when the season starts, like that's a big deal. And that means that there's numerous people that are locked in step on this. It's not just the president and the AD, as you know, because there's a lot of voices around Auburn. There's been a lot of voices around Auburn for a long time. I mean, and that's important that all those voices and opinions are locked in together to help him be as successful as he can be. And I think he alluded to that in his press conference. I didn't see the exact quote, but saying that like they got up into the top 5, with their financial part. And that's a big part of this, right now. Are you going to be able to not only retain, not only be able to recruit high school players, because those prices are going up astronomically. I heard one today on a point guard that blew me away. It was over $2 million. And I'm not sure a point guard got more than 1.7 out of high school last year, but it's just, and I don't mean for Auburn, but another kid, I don't even think Auburn's recruiting this kid, but like, it's just like, it's growing. It's not going to slow down. So revenue share, collectives, all those things are going to be so important. And if your donors aren't locked in, man, that can change in a hurry. Yeah. And I think Bruce has done an unbelievable job of, as we said earlier, reaching every person individually to make them want to be a part of it. But he also has done a phenomenal job of the people that really have a lot of, can bring a lot of value and investment into the program. He's done a great job there.
Well, what he did on the gift for the Neville Arena, I mean, I don't think people realize, I think it was 34 million
I believe
was brought in, and 7 million, I think, went to football. I don't think that's ever happened in the South. But Doug, I know the final question before we let Coach go, but again,
who's going to pay for the Bruce Pearl statue? That's what's going to be.
It's coming. And it's going to be, they'll probably name the court. They'll name the court after him, don't you think, Rob?
I think so.
I mean,
well, it's a great financial opportunity for somebody. I mean, and with the naming of the court and pay for his name on it. But Nick Saban certainly deserved his statue, and Bruce Pearl deserves one at Auburn as well. Pat Dye's got a statue, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Cliff Hair,
Charles
Barkley.
Coach Crean, I've always. I want to kind of speculate it. Maybe it's a good last question because none of us know the answer. We got to let a few seasons play out with Steven. But I've always been of the belief, not just in basketball coaching, but most of leadership, that great leaders come out of a crock pot, not a microwave, where you can go learn a lot of heady information and appear to be an expert. But you have to have gone through the school of hard knocks and seen a lot of unusual things. That sort of grooms you into a coach, to the point where when I'm filling out my bracket every March Madness, one of the things I look at a lot is I want to see you got to have a great team, but I want to see a grizzled veteran as the head coach. That doesn't mean they have to be 70 years old, but and so Todd Golden goes out and makes me look like an idiot with that last year. But so there are exceptions. But if I had to guess, the growing pains, and they're good pains, every head coach has had to go through his own journey of growth. But I think Stephen, first of all, Stephen gets an above average roster. It looks on paper anyway, coming in, starting with Todd Pettiford. But I think the growing pains will be a couple of things. For example, I'd love for you to comment on that. When you've got a player in that hard decision, do I love on him here now or do I kick his butt? And that human knowing and sensing what a player most needs motivationally with all factors involved. And the second one would be in game, like when a game is really important and you feel like you're getting hosed by the officials. And don't most coaches feel that way?
What times? Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Do you go after the referee when you're as young as Steve? And I don't know if you get as long a leash as Bruce Pearl or Coach Crean to do that. Your thoughts on that question?
Well, a couple things. First off, I think when you're first off, this is such a huge part of it, right? When it comes to adversity. Stephen may not, Stephen hasn't coached the game yet as a head coach. All right. But he's been through the suffering of his father. And when you go through suffering as a player, some people call it adversity, but suffering is a part of it, right? I mean, he's lived through some really hard things, with his family and the hard things in the coaching world. So even though it wasn't you were directly affected by it because it was your father, right? So those things harden you. Those things make you better. You go through it. And I think he'll go through his own, right? First 3-game losing streak. Those are hard deals. But I think that the biggest thing is going to be, what I always saw looking over on that bench is that they had a good cop, bad cop thing going. Like I had that with Tom Izzo a long time ago. He could be the good cop. Well, that meant I could be the bad cop. Well, some days he's the bad cop, so I need to turn around and be the good cop. And I think it's really, really hard to get that as a head coach and an assistant coach. And he had that with his dad. They could play off of each other. That's going to be really important for him to be able to wear both hats and to find others on that staff that can play the other role for him. And then I think it's going to become, for his assistants, you don't want to have to filter what's being said to you by your coaching staff. And this means everybody is locked in. And what I like about this coaching staff that he has right now is he doesn't have any independent contractors on that staff. He's got people that were there for Auburn.
Yep.
And Dayton's comes in. I mean, you got Marquise Daniels sitting over there. I mean, he loves Auburn, right? So, you've got real people that have been a part of Auburn for a period of time. So they're invested in what's best for Auburn, not what's not necessarily invested in what's their own idea. Yeah. And I think that is a huge thing, because when you take over a program, it is really, I can look around the country right now and see places where it's going to be rough for some staffs because they hired so many strangers that a lot of times when you hire strangers on your staff and you start hitting, the bullets are flying in there, man, and it's real life. And you don't know what answer you're really getting. That is huge. We could spend an hour on that. But Stephen having people that he can totally trust, not just his father, right? Not just his father, but people that he can totally trust to tell him the truth, look at what's best for that game at that particular time, look what's best for that player, and it not become group think, but it become like-minded. Big difference. Groupthink a lot of times becomes yes man, but like-minded means we're on the same page trying to get to the same place. We may have a differing opinion on how to get there, but we all want the same thing. And I think that is paramount.
Great leadership lesson,
especially when you're starting out.
Yeah.
And last one quickly, Rob. Some Sunday this January, the day after a basketball game that Stephen coaches, we won't be there, but I'd love to be a fly on the wall when Bruce says, "I can't believe you didn't go full court pressure right there."
Well, Bruce, you can't have. I mean, it's like Pat Riley going upstairs with the Heat when Eric Spoelstra took over, right? Eric's, because Dwayne Wade was a part of all that, so I got to watch all that up close. Eric Spoelstra had to grow into that job, right? But Pat Riley was always there when he needed him. Right? When he needed him, after games, before games, at practice, didn't push himself on him, but he was there. There's two things that are incredible to be successful. And this is why I go back to that 5-year deal. The worst thing that can happen is when you don't feel like you're being supported by your leadership, right? So he's got that right off the bat. And he's got somebody there that you're really not going to surprise Bruce Pearl on anything that goes on in a basketball game, in a basketball season, or in the university dynamics. And no matter what Bruce decides to do, right? No matter what he does this year, no matter what he does down the road, the fact that you have that there for you helps give you not just a sounding board, but a confident ability to listen to somebody and say, you know what, he's got my best interest at heart because he does not want me to fail.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge, huge attribute.
Yeah. And you don't want to be in an echo chamber. I have a friend of mine who's been to a few Alabama practices, and he said when Lane Kiffin was there, the longer Nick Saban was at Alabama, the younger coaches would sit on their hands if he said, hey, go around the room. Let me get some input from you. What are we doing right, wrong, and in between? Those younger guys were just terrified. It's the GOAT. They don't say anything. But the one guy, does the dress make me look fat? Yeah, it really does. Was Lane Kiffin. He was like, if we don't change our offense, we're a dead man walking. You don't want to be in an echo chamber. This is one of the, Doug, I got to say, it's one of the best interviews, guests we've had. We got to do this again and get you on this channel. Your depth of knowledge and experience, and I put you in the category, what I call Roman Harper, a truth broker. You really are. And Tom Izzo, by the way, when he comes to see Draymond Green play, when the Grizzlies were playing, my son goes, there's Tom Izzo. That's royalty. Like you're part of that. Question. And Judd Heathcote, remember the rocking chair when he retired at midcourt? Yeah. I mean, you're part of our lives. This is great. Thank you so much.
No, you're very welcome. And you said it right. I mean, let's look at Alabama. I mean, what the worst thing that could happen at Alabama, is to say we're going to play different defensively than the way Nick Saban played, right? Like, why would you ever do that? Right? I mean, why would you ever do that? And that's the same thing with what Stephen has right now. He's seen the blueprint. He's lived the blueprint, been part of the blueprint, and he's got the guy that ran the blueprint that they call Grandpa in this house. So he's in a good spot with that. But it was great to be with you guys.
Yeah, you bet. Thank
you. Love
it,
Coach Crean, fan. Y'all may have heard the thunder cracking on my microphone.
I just hope we stay on the air. Be careful, Coach.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Coach.
And Brenden Martin doing what he does. This, he's done shows from the back of a cab, from the Skyway Lounge at DFW last year, coming back from media days. Wow, Doug.
That was great.
You agree with me what I'm saying about? There's a generation of people, Auburn folks, that are now football's a bigger deal. I mean, basketball is a bigger deal to them than football. And you're right, the DNA will correct. But isn't it really cool if you're an Auburn fan and you look at it, this is a great time. That advice he gave about Stephen Pearl, and I love what you said about Bruce going, shouldn't you have gone full court press or whatever?
Been some of the best years of my life. We've won 367 games together, 18 of those being in the NCAA tournament. We've won 7 SEC championships, and we've been to 2 Final Fours together. I can put a number on those accomplishments, but I can't begin to quantify what I've learned from you to prepare me for this moment. I love you and thank you.
Yeah, and you can't make that up, Doug.
You can't program that. Well, I kind of look at, and there, naturally opinions will vary in the Auburn family or probably any fan base. Not many of us are lemmings marching into the sea. We have opinions. And then some said, well, we're at the level that you should automatically go hire a proven head coach. Mm-hmm. And you can do that and they'll win their share. But Bruce was so transformational and somebody's asked, and I think it's a fair question. We're going to find out that the Auburn basketball people, and I think I know that I have my own answer. Are they Bruce Pearl basketball fans, or did Bruce help them become Auburn basketball fans? And I think the answer, there'll be some that were mostly, groupies that just wanted to see the latest thing Bruce Pearl would, because he was, the entertainment value of Bruce Pearl on the sidelines and all that went into it. And he was such a large personality. I'm not mad at fans that came to it that way, but I think the winning is what really was the adhesive, and the student body really buying into making Neville Arena so electric and difficult place to win. So now what's going to be fun to watch is Auburn, to me, there's risk no matter which direction you were to go. I think Auburn took the most prudent risk, which is that keeping Bruce Pearl engaged with Auburn University, and not so much Auburn basketball, except more behind the scenes. He might visit with an on-campus recruit here and there, but it'll be mostly social. and he'll behind the scenes mentor Stephen. What father wouldn't, for God's sake?
Right.
But it won't be public. I don't think you'll see Bruce. He'll probably ban himself from going to practices because you got to do that, except on rare occasions. And so I think if it does not go well because of how stiff the competition is, or that Stephen wasn't quite ready, that'll be out at the 3 to 5 year mark, and I don't think that's likely. We've got all the NIL money and program brand for Stephen and this staff to continue to recruit well and play well. But if it doesn't, that's a risk. Even Bruce Pearl would say, I get it. You're a big time program. Stephen needs to find a different pasture to go do what he does. But I would be careful betting against this working with Stephen Pearl.
Yeah, and what you said about Bruce Pearl, are they Auburn fans? Are they Bruce Pearl fans? Give you an example, just a microcosm. When I worked at the Forum, when I was working at Duncan Williams, every day at lunch, Dr. Ed Weiner, who's a legend at UT basketball, came from Brooklyn, was a dentist, was like really tight with Bruce Pearl. And he would tell me every day, just watch out. He's coming. He's doing it. He's doing it. And there are so many people in Memphis that love Bruce Pearl, but he's magnanimous. And I just was texting with, Tom Crean, said, what a treasure. And he's already, I said, we're ready for your next visit. He said, let me know when. Thank you, Ronnie Sanders, for making that happen. And the people here, Scarbo, I know Kevin would have loved to be on, shameless plug. Kevin, the only U.S. basketball writer in the Basketball Writer Hall of Fame from the state of Alabama, was inducted a couple of years ago when the Final Four was in Houston. But Doug, I think they're both. I think there are a lot of people that I know that they were not Auburn fans, but Pearl pulled them in, and they go, I'm 11 years into this guy. I'm not throwing my Auburn stuff out. And I think that's a sign of what he did. And no father and son relationship. I mean, I know how much I love my dad, so there's nothing like it. But Antonio Cromartie's going to come on with us now. Antonio, sorry we were running a little bit late today, and Ronnie was like, he said we're going to have Tom Crean on to talk about Bruce Pearl, and Antonio Cromartie from Tallahassee, played for the Gators, played in the NFL a long time. And first off, I got to ask you something. First off, thank you for sharing your time with us. It means the world to us. You're from Tallahassee. Were you related to Tim Cromartie?
Tim Cromartie is my uncle.
Played football at Auburn for Pat Dye in the early 90s, big defensive tackle, wore number 92.
That was my first college football game, was coming to Auburn and watching him play.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You had a hell of a career at Florida and in the NFL.
More importantly, Antonio, great to see you. I'm Doug Dean in Birmingham, Alabama. What is your legit 40 time these days?
It ain't what it used to be. I can tell you that.
Well, it was blazing.
About 30 pounds heavier.
Happens to all of us. What are you doing these days, Antonio?
I'm just doing. I was coaching at Texas A&M, and then now I'm just doing a lot of DB training, trying to get into high school football here in Texas. So right now I'm just doing all my teacher work, trying to get my certification for teaching and all that stuff here in Texas. So that's what I'm looking forward to right now. I'm just raising my kids.
Let me ask you something. You grew up in Florida. The track and field programs in the state of Florida, I think, are the best in the country. Look at Mouse Holloway. I
might have to disagree.
Well, look at Mouse Holloway at Florida with 14 national championships. But I'm saying, I'm in Memphis, and I volunteered it with my kids for years. I've always said track and field's your insurance policy for every sport you play. So you're in Texas now. Where are you? Dallas, Fort Worth, I'm in
Houston.
Houston. Wow. Okay. So do you like it when you obviously were a track and field guy in high school? But people say you can't coach speed, but there's a lot of things you can do. You can do speed work and whatever. But talk about high school football in the state of Texas compared to Florida, because we're an Auburn podcast, but Brenden Martin, our executive producer, they've got GatorbaitMedia.com. He and his dad, Buddy Martin. You probably met Buddy covering Florida over the years in Gatorbait Media and Franz Beard. Ben Troop is a regular on the show. It's really, to me, high school football, without it, we got no NFL. But talk about the difference in those two states and what your goals are going forward.
The difference is the money they pour into football here
Yeah.
in Texas. I mean,
Yeah.
you're talking about you walk around. Like I'm probably about a mile and a half from my house. There's a stadium they built for $110 million. You got another
High
one that's
school.
high school stadium that sits about 20,000 people in it. Then you got another stadium within probably 15 miles of my house, 10 to 15 miles of my house. That's probably in the Spring District. They spent $94 million on. And then you have another high school. You got in Katy. If you go to Katy, which is 25 minutes from my house, they got two stadiums side by side. That's basically can sit 15,000 seats in each one of them, and they're in the same parking lot, they're in the same everything. They spent probably about $100 some million on each one of those stadiums. So you're talking about the money that's poured into it. But that's not just football, that's all sports here. When you look at baseball, you look at basketball, and then you look at track and females, when women's softball, volleyball, and everything else. It's a lot of money that's poured into a lot of these sports, and I think to me that's the difference is the resources that they have here. These kids are more used to playing into big crowds. I mean, when you go into semifinal games of the playoffs here in football, you're talking about 40, 50,000 people going to come into a football game. So they're used to seeing crowds like that. In Florida, you don't get that. We're still playing on dirt, with grass and then with dirt spots in it and everything else. We're just now getting to turf fields in a lot of our fields. So that's here in middle school. Like, I got a son that's in middle school that they finna get ready to change their field to turf. They got two basketball courts in their middle school. They have a true weight room in their middle school. So it's like these programs here are programmed to produce athletes. Do we have better athletes in the state of Florida? I believe we do.
Yeah.
Do we have the resources a lot of these kids have here in Florida that they have here in Texas? No, we don't. Um, because the money is poured into all the athletics here. It's not poured into a lot of athletics there. Um, everybody can't afford what a lot that's here that's there. And that's what made me want to move here, just from a sports standpoint. I got my girls out in gymnastics, and Texas is one of the best
Yeah.
gymnastics state for where you get all your gymnastics girls from. So if you look at any gymnastics team, you got probably 3, 4, or 5 girls that's from Texas that's on that roster, and that's everywhere you go. So, and a lot of kids move here from other states to come down here and go to gymnastics because of the gymnastics facilities. So it's just different.
Yeah. Doug.
Antonio, good Auburn people who may be tuning in probably don't remember this, but I'm sure you've thought about this. You have a weird kinship from you're in an important play, 109-yard short field goal return in the NFL in 2007. And I don't need to ask you if you ever heard of the kick six play on November 30th, my birthday, 2013.
Come on, I watched that one.
I was in the south end zone in that game, and it's a big deal. Let me tip my hat to Alabama and their tradition. It's a big deal to beat Alabama, which I'm sure you celebrated the first game of the season this year in Tallahassee. Are you kidding me? I don't think anybody saw the nature of that game coming. But what was it like? I didn't remember, to be honest. I should have, but I'm slightly less of an NFL than a college football fan. There's just so many hours in life when you're feeding kids. But what was it clear to player and coaches that short field goals are returnable? Like, obviously you grabbed it and went, but how it seemed like in the kick six game that not even the announcers fully comprehended that was returnable. If you talk about that.
Well, no, you know what? Honestly, no one even knew I was back there. My own special team coach didn't even know I was back there. He thought I was missing a player, and then the player started pointing that I was in the back. But you got to think, Devin Hester did that the year before. And then before that was Nathan Vasher. So the field goal returns has always been there. It's just
pros know the rules, right?
Yeah, you got to know the rules, especially when you got kickers. You're looking at kickers that you look at their range, and you got most kickers that they're gonna try to sometimes kick out of their range, and just because they've done it in warm ups and everything else, but it's in the heat of the moment. It's different how you kick off that ball, how you kick the ball when you got pressure and everything else on you. So it was just an opportunity and understanding that, hey, it's right before halftime. let's just see if he does make it, he make it. If he don't, then if it falls short, it's returnable. So let's see what we can do. And that return there was right before halftime. We went up 14-7, ended up still losing because Adrian Peterson ran for 297 yards that game
There
in
is
his
that
rookie year. But you know, it
exciting
was
play. And
it's
now, at one
exciting play.
time, it was the longest scoring play in NFL history. I guess that record still stands, right?
It still stands, can never be broken, only can be tied. I
That's right.
still say
Wow.
I still say I got the longest because I'm only like 6 inches away from the line. Everybody else is a yard out at right at 109.
So
I'm
the
6
NFL
inches.
counts the 9 yards in the end zone.
Yeah, they count the 9.
See,
Yeah.
I think they did not in college.
No, they don't. They don't. No, they don't. They don't count it in college. They just call it a 100-yard return.
Unbelievable.
Let me ask you this: growing up in Tallahassee, did you go to Godby or Lincoln?
I went to Lincoln.
Lincoln. Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm an Auburn grad. I've been to Tallahassee a few times. I've been to games down there. Wow, they've retrofitted the stadium. Mike Norvell, we watched him at Memphis. Now he's down at Florida State.
Mhm.
Your thoughts on? By the way, I wish Auburn and Florida State still played, and I know Auburn wanted them. Coach Dye wanted desperately to get them into the SEC. You've got so many great athletes. Like you said, facilities, it's not like Texas. But you've got the athletes in the state of Florida. Look how quickly they've gone from last year to this year. What do you think happened? And what are your thoughts on college football, the NIL, and everything that's happening from your days, and how people have to adjust to where we are today if they want to have any kind of future?
Well, back in my day, we had the bag man.
Well,
You
yeah,
had the
I
bag.
mean, he was
You
the
had the
mythical
bag.
bag man.
Listen, you had the bag man where you would have to go down a dirt road to an old wooded house, go pick it up off the porch, and then get back on your little private jet, head back to home, and like nothing ever happened.
That's right.
You know, and
But what they
you
were
can.
paying back then probably would be a bargain compared to NIL, right?
Oh man, definitely. But I like it. I just think there needs to be more of a handle and understanding how to do it. There needs to be a cap, but you can't do a cap unless you got a union. So once you understand the situation and understanding how to go about spending the money the right way, splitting the money the right way with the other programs, other sports in there, you figure that out, and then you figure out how you cap and how you want to pay your freshmen if you still want to bring in freshmen, because right now you got the transfer portal that's like the NFL. It's basically free agency season, which I'm happy now that um, they cut it down to just one year. Well, I'm gonna say one part of the year.
Yeah.
I think that's the best thing, because now when you do that, it creates a place where now you got to recruit freshmen. If you need to. But at the same time, I think when you're signing these freshmen and everybody else, I think it needs to turn into a 2-year deal. You need to sign these kids for a 2-year deal. They can't leave. They can't do anything for 2 years. And it puts them in a place where they have to be, one, responsible for what they're doing, but also be committed to something that they need to be doing. And then it also holds the programs and everybody else uh, accountable for what's going on. And I think there needs to be fines. If you're late to class, if you miss class, if you do certain things, there need to be fines within that. If you get an unsportsmanlike conduct, there needs to be a fine. Just if you want to act like you want to be paid like you in the NFL, well, you need to get fined like you're in the NFL. I think those are the things that need to start putting into it, because it's not a it's not an amateur sport anymore.
That's right.
Right, you're getting paid for it now. So when you look at it like that, let's start adding fines. And I think you need to go back, if you're gonna pay players, I think you need to go back to I think you need to get 10 hours back. 10 hours back to the college coaches, because they took 40. I mean, they took 20 away back in 2007 because of Rich Rodriguez.
Yeah, Doug.
But to get the coaches back 10 hours just for the simple fact of development, because we're not developing players no more. They're looking for everybody to be
Yeah. And Antonio, here you come back. Yeah, hopefully we won't lose him. Hopefully he's not getting storms. Doug, I like what he just said. Put the structure in there. They want to be treated and paid like professionals. Start putting the rules. Accountability, that's the key, isn't it, Doug?
Yeah,
we don't have
everybody knows we need a antitrust exemption and collective bargaining that would at least give you an opportunity structurally to have rules that are comparable at a college level of what they're doing in the NFL. You can't have 24/7 free agency.
Yeah.
You can't have no salary cap effectively just because some schools are willing to fund NIL at a higher level. So I hope we get Antonio back.
Yeah. And again, when he played at Florida State, I think he finished in 06, 07. Long career with 10 years in the NFL, fast as lightning. Doug, and I see this, obviously, who would have ever thought in going into late September, there'd be an Auburn podcast on the AU Undercover, and we really even haven't talked about football. It's been about basketball. Bruce Pearl has blocked out the sun on Auburn football. And it's kind of unimaginable, but that's the world that we live in. And, you've got baseball. Bruce Pearl's right. Auburn's at everything school. Love to get Antonio Cromartie back on because, boy, I haven't heard anybody say what he just said. We need to hear from more of the college guys who are NFL now trying to get back into college coaching. He's saying it what we believe, correct? That's what I believe.
Yeah, and I'm down to the wire and having to cut out, but I'll say this. Bruce Pearl gets a pretty big assist from the SEC officiating office for taking them off the front page with his bombshell announcement. Man, it was not their finest hour since last Saturday, and that one the plot continues to thicken, and I don't really care to put more in the air. Auburn needs to be practicing for Texas A&M if they plan to go up there and be competitive.
Yeah, and that's going to be a big one. Look, we've run out of time. I know Brenden is producing, dealing with Wi-Fi and storm issues, but Doug Dean, thank you so much. Tom Crean, Antonio Cromartie, everybody watching.
Tom Crean.
Yeah, that was
Friday morning on, brother.
Oh yeah, we're on. We're gonna have a lot of fun. And we will be talking about some football. So we'll see you then.
I mean, I heard there might be a game in Athens, Georgia this weekend.
That's right. We're talking about all of them. Thank you, everybody. Stay tuned.
God bless. See you guys.
God bless y'all all. Thank you.